Hey guys, welcome back. Eric Smith here, Five Reasons Sports contributor, also co-host of the Scouting Combine with Hassan Patel. And before we talk about the grades for this week, I wanted to try to explain a little of what I'm hoping to be able to do with the early part of this offseason. The database that I use for tracking the grades for the offensive linemen that I do is pretty simple, and it really wasn't intended to be utilized to the degree that this platform has provided me. I plan to make some changes to how the plays are tracked in the future, but for now, it does still have some useful data points. And since the season is officially over, my intention is to begin taking these weekly videos to do a player review on each individual lineman. I do have all of the play concepts and play directions charted. So my goal is to be able to not only look at the overall grade and a few of the highlights of each player, but to really be able to break it down, and look at where the players excelled and where they struggled. For example, a less athletic player like Robert Jones, was he better when inside zone was run behind him on the left side, but struggled with lower grades when running outside zone to the right, where he'd be asked to perform more of a cutoff block? To be clear, I haven't started any of that research, but that's the direction that I'm hoping to go. So if you're interested in that, let me know below who you'd be most interested in hearing about first, and keep an eye out for those videos to start dropping. This video is going to be fairly quick, I think. Grading this game was pretty much a chore, and I put the appropriate effort into the grading aspect, but in terms of the presentation, I'm ready just to go through the motions, kind of like the team was yesterday. So, in that spirit, you can see all the grades are already on the screen. Teron Armstead was very clearly limited by injury in this game, and I'd like to extend my appreciation to Teron for pushing through this one, given how little the game meant, and that the alternative was to grade another Jackson Carman game. Unfortunately, the impact for him directly was this was his lowest graded game of the season outside of the Seahawks game, where he played minimal snaps and exited early, also due to injury. Isaiah Wynn, he came in with the his second poor grade out of three games this year. And while surprised how low the grade has been for Isaiah Wynn, missing as much time as he did and then coming back late in the season as part of a rotation, it was just never going to be a chance at a fair evaluation on Isaiah Wynn. I do think that Wynn showed enough in his three games to back up what I had said coming into the season, which is that Wynn was not going to be a savior at the guard position. He would have just been part of the mix of the players we already had starting here, and possibly getting the edge over Liam Eichenberg. Speaking of Liam Eichenberg, he had a great grade for the game this week. He didn't do anything spectacular, but he managed to avoid the embarrassing negative reps that he seems to collect one or two of every week. And I've always thought Liam was better than most people think of him, and that if he could just get rid of those few bad reps, that he could be a solid starter. But he finally got pretty much an entire season to stay in one position, and those couple of snaps every game continue to haunt him. I still think he's an okay player, just not someone that we should see in the starting lineup in the future. All right, like I said from the beginning, this video is going to be a little different than previous weeks. I did pull the videos as I was going through and doing the grading, but I didn't organize them by player like I usually do. So we're just going to go through the videos that I did pull and just look at a few things that caught my eye while doing the grading this week. All right, so the first one here we're going to look at is a outside zone to the left. And what we're going to look at here is Isaiah Wynn. So his assignment should be to get to number 56 here, right? And, maybe to help Patrick Paul out, he could step to the left and kind of throw that right arm out. But you can see that everybody else is moving to the left. and Isaiah Wynn is going to the right. By the time he flips around, 56 is what, 5, 6 yards ahead of him, and there's no chance that he's ever going to make that play. 56 comes through, makes the play on Achan. So coming back to the beginning here, we should see Isaiah Wynn stepping out here to the left, trying to get that cutoff angle, and you'll see going in slow motion here that instead of that, right, he steps with that left foot first, but then for some reason goes backwards and never has a chance at the play here. All right, next one here is going to be for Patrick Paul at right tackle here. And we've talked about some in the past where we've had slide right protections where Paul should be worried about the outside here, and he should be getting help from the inside. On this one, is a slide left protection. So this is a man protection on this side. And you can see that Paul, gets overextended like people have talked about in the past that I really didn't feel was happening as much. But in this case, he's got to know that he has no help to the inside here and has to do a better job. And in Paul's defense, right, he's at right tackle this week, which is something that he hasn't done a whole lot in his career. So not surprised that they have some growing pains here. And hopefully this is the last time that we see Patrick Paul at right tackle. But, this was certainly him kind of looking out of his element in a situation where it should have been man versus man pass protection. All right, on this one, we're going to get some strong side outside zone to the left. And even though Teron Armstead was playing injured in this game, he still had some really nice reps. And this is one of those examples. We get a good cutoff block there from Rob Jones. We're getting Ingold and Julian Hill out here with the combo block on the defensive end and the cornerback out here. And looking at the lane here, right? It's there, but it's not huge. But if you watch the way that Tehran takes his guy, throws him out, that's really what gives Achan that extra lane to the outside to get the extra yards. On the flip side here, this is going to be outside zone to the left again. And, Tehran is a very technically sound player. And outside zone left, everybody should be stepping left foot. And we see Tehran not able to get out here, number 56. And the reason for that is that if you look at his footwork off the snap here, his right foot drops before he takes off. And maybe that, part of that is, issues that he's having with a knee that he's not really able to drive out of there. You can see that his angle of departure here is also more vertical than what you'd want. We talked about with the Isaiah Wynn one, trying to get that 45-degree cutoff angle, and that's not where Armstead starts. Instead, he gets more of a vertical departure there and then has to try to change direction, and he's not able to get there in this case. All right, this one is on here for Brewer, right? And outside zone, right. And as he gets out there, he gives a little bit of help to Rob Jones to be able to cut that guy off. And then as he's getting to the next level here, right, main thing you want to do is just make sure that he doesn't have a direct path downhill. And Brewer does a good job of that, making sure that he's kind of got to go backdoor, chase from behind. But where a lot of players just kind of let that go and just maybe climb up to a safety and see who else they can get. This is a really athletic adjustment from Brewer here, right? As that player is going underneath him, not just trying to stop and wall him off, but to be able to flip the opposite way and be able to still get hands on him, which then partially affects number 94 there. I just felt like this was a good one to include just to show, the level of athleticism and IQ that Brewer plays with and, kind of echo stuff that we've talked about all season with him. And then we got one for Liam here. This is going to be a screen pass to the right. And you can see that, Liam does a good job of getting into the open field, getting his hands on that defender, and just kind of taking him where he wants to go. Um, this is something that I felt that compared to especially Rob Jones, that Eichenberg kind of had an edge on some of the other guards in this system. Unfortunately, he has not been able to handle power very well at the point of attack, which is something that we've known for a while. But he hasn't been able to be good enough in other areas to offset that. But I still felt like this was a good example of you know Liam being a solid athlete, getting into space and attaching to a linebacker, and that's one of the narratives about Liam is that he's not a good athlete, and I don't necessarily agree with that. I do agree with the idea that he has, some issues with balance and strength. But, in terms of guys getting in the open field and moving, right, Liam is not, anywhere close to as bad of an athlete as somebody like Rob Jones. And then we're going in chronological order here. So this isn't a, you know, pro Liam video or anything like that, but this was the touchdown run from Achan, and this was a really good block again by Liam, getting into open field, attaching to that linebacker, and letting Achan just make the cut off of him there. And then one for Win here. I feel like one of the things that a lot of people talked about in terms of Win was that, supposedly he was coming in, he was supposed to be a much better pass protector than the other guards. This one obviously didn't affect the play, right? But if, you look at Rob Jones or Liam Eichenberg losing this bad early in a rep, then, I feel like they'd be getting a lot of attention for it. And this just kind of shows that, you know, while Wynn may have certain things that are better than Liam Eichenberg and Rob Jones, he's just not, you know, an all around better prospect than those guys. Not a huge upgrade. And, you know, kind of like Liam with the stuff in space, um, you know, Wynn does not do enough to really move the needle for me. All right, on this one, so we are going to get a slide left protection, which means that we're essentially man on man over here. We do have Johnny over here helping out with Reddick on Paul. We can see we get a bit of a stunt here that they're trying to push up into Paul's inside shoulder and loop Reddick around. And Liam's a little late, doesn't do an awful job there, but need to have better communication between the two of them and need to have a little more connection with the ground there for Paul so that when that loop does happen, then he's able to, you know, kind of reset his hips and get lower on number 94 as opposed to just, basically playing on top of his shoulder pads and getting lucky that Tyler Huntley was able to scramble outside of that one. All right, and then one here for Patrick Paul. So the left side of the line slides to the left. So you got three pass blockers to the left. John stays in, so you've got three to the right here as well. But what you're going to have from the defense here, as you can see, you've got four rushers from the right side. So Eichenberg is taking number 94. John is taking number 58. And we've talked about kind of a double bump technique before here. But in this case, you can see that because of Paul's size, that he is literally able to get his hands on both those defenders at the same time. It's not a double bump where he is, blocking a defensive tackle and then coming off late on the linebacker, right? This is just a big ass man being able to set up. And no, he's not going to, stop both of them in his tracks, but just the ability to get his hands on both those guys so that neither of them are getting a free rush is what allows Huntley to be able to get the pass out, even though Johnny ends up getting tackled right away. All right, that's it for the video. So we're going to close it out just taking a look at this graph that we've talked about in the past. And you can see that early in the season, we had some high variance performances where we had some really high performers, but then we had these really low performers that were, given some erratic performances from the offensive line. Here around the middle, you can see that things kind of evened out and they look kind of clean on this graph, and that corresponds with a nice little stretch in the middle of the season where the run game really started to get going, and then you get to the end here, and it's just a complete mess of not knowing what you're getting from one week to the next in terms of performances and personnel of the individuals involved. Uh, as we move into the offseason, like I said, I am going to do a review video on each individual player. You know, I know that there's a lot of talk about upgrading the guards in this offense, and I agree that there is absolutely room to do that. But I'm not sure that I am on the same page of using a first round pick or going out and making that our blockbuster signing in the offseason. In my opinion, we know now that Mike McDaniel and Chris Greer are returning for another year in this system, in this outside zone system. In my opinion, the biggest key to success is going to be getting two offensive tackles that can play at a high level and are on the field all the time. That Teron Armstead and Austin Jackson missing time and, new guys having to continuously build chemistry, I feel has been the biggest hindrance in this offense in the running game. And then after that, we got to get a tight end that can block. We're not going to find a George Kittle. We saw Sam Laporta last night doing a great job, but we need to find somebody along those lines. And, the team had high hopes for Julian Hill, and he does still show some flashes, but we can't go into another season with him being our number one inline tight end. So, in terms of what we need to do to get this run game going, in my opinion, finding stability at the tackle position, finding an answer at the tight end position are both bigger needs than finding guards. And there are opportunities, and we'll talk about those throughout the offseason, whether it's some other draft picks or some different level free agents that I feel can still give us an upgrade at the guard position along with these other things. But we're not going to go into the offseason. If you're here to hear me talk about guards and how we're going to go out and we are going to, or draft Will Campbell in the first round to play one guard and go draft or sign Trace Smith to a monster deal to play the other, this is not going to be the channel for you. Appreciate you guys watching me all of this season. I've really enjoyed doing these, really enjoyed the interactions that we've had, and I look forward to doing more of this throughout the off season and continuing into next season. Thanks a lot, guys. Talk to you later.